As the Ukraine crisis approaches its first anniversary, China said is deeply concerned about escalating conflict and potential for developments to spiral out of control. Then, under that context, China on Tuesday released a report, the Global Security Initiative concept paper. There are a lot of information in the report that's worth highlighting, and one thing that stood out to me was the report mentioned that countries should firmly uphold the consensus that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. Then how concerned are you about the Ukraine crisis heading towards to that direction, a possible nuclear conflict? And how could China's peace initiative help to de-escalate or resolve the crisis?
Well, I think we're very concerned about the possibility of further escalation in Ukraine, about the risk of any kind of nuclear exchange, which once something like that gets started, I cannot imagine that it's going to be easy to control. And I think that that could spiral into a very, very, very dangerous and destructive result. And I think that that's a very, very troubling possibility. China's position, both stated in the Global Security Initiative documents, and of course, it's been China's consistent position since the outbreak of this conflict in Ukraine, is that this needs to be resolved through negotiation. Some of the key points in that Global Security Initiative document talk about that differences need to be resolved through dialogue and consultation. China has called for negotiations right from the start. China, I think, acknowledges that Russia has very specific and reasonable interests that are part of the conflict, as well as Ukraine having its own interests, and that the way forward should be one of negotiation, dialogue, constructive engagement. But that, of course, requires that both sides be willing to take part in those negotiations and those discussions. And so far, especially under the push from the United States, the Ukrainian government has been completely unwilling to even consider negotiations. So I think that the Chinese initiative is very, very welcome. I think that people in many countries around the world will be very eager to embrace this. And of course, it's consistent with what China's foreign policy principles have been going all the way back to the 1950s, and the principles that were articulated by Premier Zhou Enlai at that time. It's just a common sense, down to earth approach to how countries should deal with one another. But sadly, the American politicians are intent upon prolonging the war. President Biden's surprise visit to Kyiv just fans the flames further. But it's just bleeding the Ukrainian people and trying to weaken Russia, trying to weaken Russia's ability to maintain its economy and its security. And there doesn't seem to be a willingness on the Ukrainian, NATO, American side to enter into serious negotiations. But certainly that is China's position, has been China's position, and is consistent with China's overall orientation in global affairs.